Night in Game 3 against the Arizona Diamondbacks in Phoenix, the Dodgers, facing a must-win situation, are putting their trust in a guy who gave up 44 homers in the regular season, the most in the major leagues. It is very important for Lynn to get off to a good start. The Diamondbacks have scored a combined 9 runs in the first inning in Games 1 and 2. Chargers running back Austin Eckler said he will play in Monday night's game against Dallas at SoFi. Eckler has been out since Week 1 with a high ankle sprain. The Chargers are averaging only 2.7 yards per carry in Eckler's absence. The Clippers beat Utah by 5 in a preseason game last night in Seattle. Kawhi Leonard played 20 minutes. He led the Clippers with 16 points. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
On October 12, 2022, Noura Martinez resigned from the Los Angeles City Council. This came a few days after the world heard Noura and other elected members of the council speak disparagingly about black people, indigenous people, and others.
This white guy with this little black kid bouncing off the effing walls on the floor. There's nothing you can do.
And what participants believed was a private conversation, racism, colorism, homophobia, and bigotry were exposed like never before. The effort to undermine the political influence of black fellow citizens was specifically targeted by these so-called leaders. Everyday people stormed the doors of City Hall demanding immediate resignations. Even the President of the United States called for resignations. On Thursday, October 12th, 5 to 7 p.m., KBLA Talk 1580 will host a day of dialogue on the anatomy of anti-black racism and bigotry in Los Angeles with an all-star panel of civic leaders. Don't miss this conversation. Thursday, October 12th, live from 5 to 7 p.m. with an encore performance from 7 to 9 p.m. only on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Live from historic Leimert Park in Los Angeles, California, I'm Tavis Smiley, and I'm so glad to see you and me back in stride again. Before we get started with today's show, let me invite you to follow me on Facebook and Instagram at The Real Tavis Smiley and get updates on X, that's formerly Twitter, at Tavis Smiley. By the way, should you miss any part of today's program or want to catch up on previous shows, you can always visit TheTavisSmileyShow.com. That's TheTavisSmileyShow.com, or wherever you get your podcast, and listen to the Tavis Smiley podcast at your leisure. Another great show on tap for you today. In our second hour, on the night of July 7th, 2016, a gunman killed 5 police officers in downtown Dallas. You might recall that. Dr. Brian Williams was the surgeon on duty that night at Parkland Hospital who worked on 3 of those officers. Parkland, by the way, the same hospital they rushed JFK to on the day of his assassination. So Dr. Brian Williams is working that night at Parkland when these officers come in. He's written a book about that experience. It's called The Bodies Keep Coming, Dispatches from a Black Trauma Surgeon on Racism, Violence, and How We Heal. Dr. Williams joins us today in hour 2. In our third hour, A conversation with Grammy-nominated composer, curator, and activist Carlos Simon, who is currently the composer in residence for the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts, of course, in Washington, D.C. Carlos Simon also composes frequently for the National Symphony Orchestra and the Washington National Opera. I look forward to a conversation with this great curator and composer, Carlos Simon, who will join us in Hour 3. In this first hour today, though, two more conversations on the B side of this hour.
The bloody hands of the terrorist organization Hamas, a group whose stated purpose for being is to kill Jews. This was an act of sheer evil. More than 1,000 civilians slaughtered, not just killed, slaughtered in Israel. Among them, at least 14 American citizens killed. Parents butchered using their bodies to try to protect their children. Stomach-turning reports of babies being killed. Entire families slain. Young people massacred while attending a musical festival to celebrate peace. Women raped, assaulted, paraded as trophies. Families hid their fear for hours and hours, desperately trying to keep their children quiet to avoid drawing attention. And thousands of wounded, alive but carrying with them the bullet holes and the shrapnel wounds and the memory of what they endured. You all know these traumas never go away. There's still so many families desperately waiting to hear the fate of their loved ones, not knowing if they're alive or dead or hostages. Infants in their mother's arms, grandparents in wheelchairs, Holocaust survivors abducted and held hostage. Hostages whom Hamas has now threatened to execute in violation of every code of human morality. This is terrorism. But sadly, for the Jewish people, it's not new. This attack has brought to the surface painful memories and the scars left by a millennia of anti-Semitism and genocide of the Jewish people. So in this moment, we must be crystal clear. We stand with Israel. We stand with Israel.
The war between Israel and Hamas is continuing its destruction, with now thousands of folk on both sides killed, injured, abducted, or missing. Yesterday, President Joe Biden, as you just heard, called the attacks on Israel pure, unadulterated evil, and once again pledged America's support for Israel, promising indeed to send more ammunition and other assistance. Peter Baker of the New York Times, who's covered the White House since the 1990s, said, and I quote, "This is one of the sharpest, even angriest condemnations of terrorism in Israel that I have ever heard from an American president." Baker added, Biden offered no equivocation and made no effort to urge restraints on Israel's response, close quote. On the backside of this hour, we'll be joined by Noura Erakat, a human rights attorney, Rutgers professor, and author of Justice for Some, Law and the Question of Palestine. But we commence today's show talking politics with LA Times columnist based in Washington, Jackie Calmes. Jackie, how are you today?
I'm good, Tavis. It's great to be with you again.
It's great to hear your voice. Thank you for the few minutes that we have here. We're going to spend more time talking about this on the backside of this hour, but I obviously would be remiss starting this hour without asking your take on what you saw President Biden say yesterday. You heard Peter Baker's comments and how fierce, even angry he used, that's the word he used, angry, when he was witnessing what the president was having to say. So you cover these issues and opine for the LA Times, for the rest of us readers, for all of us readers, I should say. You're based there in D.C., as I mentioned a moment ago. So your take quickly on what you saw, what you heard the president say yesterday.
Well, I would agree with Peter, my former colleague at the New York Times, and that I've never seen, I've covered, showing my age, I've been covering the White House and Congress a little bit longer than even Peter, and I would say I couldn't remember a president who sounded so impassioned as Biden did yesterday. And also, it was notable that he wasn't urging restraint, and not that it would do any good. We've seen what Israel's retaliation is like, yeah. And despite the fact that people might have thought there'd be restraint, if only because of the roughly 150 hostages that are in Gaza. It's hard to believe many of them will ever come home alive.
I want to come to this notion right quick of not urging restraint. That's it's a big deal for a variety of reasons. We'll unpack that when we come forward with Jackie Calms of the LA Times on Tavis Smiley.
What's your quarrel with the world? You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Escalade IQ. This the intro to the all-electric Cadillac, perfection like Zoom. And on a full charge, you get 450 miles without the stop. Haiku. This is what I do. Daddy fat intellect since 92. Linked all the way back, panoramic roof. Come with 24-inch rim standard. Ooh, why? Shawty don't kill him. Cadillac diamond in the back, cold chillin'. And when I'm on attack, on the track is no ceiling. Sky's the limit. You hear me? You hear me? Straight drop, no parachutes. Lay lines like a longitude and latitude. Deal it, beloved, clearly we're hustling. Bustin', truckin'. Cadillac, Cadillac.
For more on the Escalade IQ, visit Cadillac.com.
Available late 2024. GM estimate 450-mile range. On a full charge based on development testing and/or analytical projection. Consistent with SAHA 1634 revision 2017 MCT. Range subject to change prior to production. Annual rates may vary based on service factors, including ambience temperature, terrain, battery age, and condition loading, and how you use and maintain your vehicle.
Happy birthday, Metro K-Line. Whether traveling for business or pleasure, it's time you made today a K-Line day. The K-Line can connect you with fun, food, friends, and family from Crenshaw to Inglewood in one safe, clean, comfortable ride. Take the K-Line today and experience the diversity that makes LA such a great place to live, work, and play. Make it a K-Line day. Go Metro. Visit metro.net/K-Line.
Do you have both Medi-Cal and Medicare?
If so, the new LA Care plan called Medicare Plus can help you get the most out of your health plan for $0.
LA Care provides personalized service to Angelinos like us.
Plus, it gives us access to doctors and specialists across Los Angeles County.
For zero cost, we get access to full benefits.
From vision coverage,
in-home support services,
to prescription drug coverage,
and a quarterly over-the-counter allowance.
Plus personal equipment,
meal programs,
a gym membership,
and so much more.
For more than 25 years,
LA Care has provided Angelinos with access to quality health care at an affordable cost.
For our families,
our seniors,
our community,
it's a plus.
It's a plus
for all of us.
What's up? I'm Danelle Riley, FAMU alumni and creator of the HBCU Culture Shop. I am so proud of my new partnership with Black Beyond Measure and Target. They help me elevate community pride with my HBCU designs and continue to support Black creators and entrepreneurs with Target HBCU challenges, scholarship programs, and campus collaborations. Let's come together this homecoming season and beyond. Shop my brand and discover other Black-owned products at target.com/BlackBeyondMeasure.
Helping to make you the most knowledgeable person in your circle of friends. This is Tavis Smiley.
It's Tavis Smiley in conversation with Jackie Calms, columnist for the LA Times, based in Washington. What else do you start a show with today other than the war in the Middle East between Israel and Hamas? So, Jackie, we were talking moments ago about the fact that the president yesterday made no effort whatsoever to call for restraint. And whenever, certainly in my career, whenever I've had to cover this conflict in the Middle East, which comes up, as we know, from time to time, between Israel and Palestine, the president always finds a way to ask for, demand, insist upon what I would frame a measured, commensurate response. And when that doesn't happen, the world goes crazy, apoplectic, when Israel just, at any point, just piles on. In this case, though, given what Hamas did, I've been thinking about this for a couple of days now. I'm not sure I know what a measured, commensurate response would be, and that may very well be the reason why the president didn't call for it, given the way he laid out what he had to say about what Hamas did to women and to babies, et cetera, et cetera. It's hard to know in this instance, Jackie, what a measured, commensurate response would be.
Well, that's absolutely right, Tavis. And you know, this has been called ad nauseum Israel's 9/11. Mm-hmm. And it's much worse than that. It's, you know, given Israel's small population, if you multiply, it would be like in our country if we lost tens of thousands of people in a sneak attack like that. And imagine if any other country had come to us after 9/11, had told George W. Bush, be measured in your response. He wouldn't have done it. We wouldn't have done it. But the fact of the matter is, the ones who are paying the price are innocent Palestinians. Palestinians and Hamas, the terrorist group, are not synonymous.
Exactly.
And you see the drone photos of what Gaza City looks like, and you just have to know that how many thousands of people must be dead, and at best just homeless. And it just breaks my heart. And there's hearts broken on both sides, and it's just. But this terrorist group cannot be condoned. It has to be condemned, and we can't, given our own history, can't really expect Israel to be measured in its response.
Yeah. You made a powerful point a moment ago, and I wanted to come right to it. So you're prescient today because you know exactly where I wanted to go, and that is this distinction between Hamas and the Palestinian people. The president made that comment. We played that tape a moment ago, a clip at least from his speech yesterday. So the audience heard the president say that. Others have said that, and my question is whether or not you think that point is getting through. And here's why I ask that. Because I've also been reading, and you've seen the same things I've seen on college campuses all across the country. There are student groups. Harvard is in some trouble right now. Harvard and other campuses all across the country are in trouble because there are student groups who are saying we stand with Palestine. I've been reading pieces this morning and yesterday. Black Lives Matter Grassroots, Black Lives Matter Chicago is in all kind of trouble. Just go to TMZ. They've been all over this. TMZ, yes, they've been all over this about Black Lives Matter Chicago for some images that they posted on X, formerly Twitter, saying that they support Hamas. And I'm raising this because, again, there are a lot of people who are trying to make the argument that they stand with Palestinians, the Palestinian people, but Hamas and Palestine, the people of Palestine, are not the same thing. So if you say you stand with the Palestinian people, okay, I'm with you. That's one thing. If you say you stand with Hamas, this terrorist organization, that's another thing. And I'm not so sure people are making a distinction between Hamas and Palestine. To your point, the folk who suffer are the innocent Palestinians. But my question finally, though, is do you think that distinction is getting through to the American people?
Well, I think it's getting through to people who really want to get the truth. People who are having a knee-jerk response to this and just want to be, Israel right or wrong, and so they're against the entire Arab world. That they're not ever going to, that truth is never going to get through to them. But I think most Americans will be able to make that distinction. And, the Palestinians have been pawns for all of their history here since the 20th century, where they are, they're sort of like an occupied people under Israel, but yet the Arab world just used them as pawns for their own benefit and political points, and Hamas most of all. And, you can just bet that most of the Palestinians do not support what Hamas did, because they, as much as they may hate Israel, because they know they're going to pay the price, they and their families. And so, yes, I mean, if nothing else, we have to get through this message that the Palestinian people are not synonymous with Hamas.
Yeah, no, it's a critical and crucial distinction that I hope people will make, or at least try to wrestle with. And yeah, it's going to be. It appears it's going to take a while. I don't know how many days are in front of us, but the U.S. Has sent ammunition. Other countries around the world have sent support to Israel. So two things I'm certain of. One, it's going to take a while to do whatever is going to be done on the part of Israel. And number two, I'm fairly certain that when they get done, Hamas will not have anything left to work with.
Right.
Bibi Netanyahu's going to go all the way in. And you saw today they've now formed a unity government. So even the folk in the government who don't like Bibi are now with Bibi. So they've got a unity government now. and they're going to crush. They're going to do everything they can to crush Hamas.
Yeah.
And we will see what happens in the coming days. But this ain't going to be over anytime soon, I don't think. Let me move in the time I have left to cover a couple other things. It seems that when you're talking about a war that the world is paying attention to, everything else gets crowded out. But there are some other important things happening in this country, including the replacement of House Speaker Kevin McCarthy. So let me tell you what I know, at least what I've read. You're there in Washington, much closer than I am to this drama. But what I know is that there are a few people running, of course, to replace Kevin McCarthy. Kevin McCarthy hinted yesterday that he might get back in the race. But the two front runners are Steve Scalise and Jim Jordan. And I want to just make sure that I put us in the right frame. My friend Connie Rice, one of our regular contributors here, always says, Tavis, you got to get in the right frame. And so here's the frame that we are in. The top three contenders, hear me on this now. The top three contenders to be the third person in line to the presidency are Steve Scalise, who has reportedly called himself David Duke without the baggage. Those are words out of Steve Scalise's mouth, that I am David Duke without the baggage. That's one guy who is running to be third in line to the presidency. We know Jim Jordan, who basically was sympathetic and is a part of that insurrectionist crowd that had their way on January 6th a couple years ago. And Kevin McCarthy puts his name in, saying he may reconsider running again. We've already seen what that looks like. But that's what you have as options to replace the Speaker of the House in this election. That's what you have in terms of the person who will be third in line to the presidency. That frame is not the kind of frame I want to be in, Jackie, but that's what we're looking at here.
Yeah. Well, and if I could, let me connect the two stories.
Sure.
Your Israel, the war against Israel, between Israel and Hamas, and our domestic politics.
Mm-hmm.
Israel, what happened to Israel and how it was taken by surprise should be a lesson to us. Not just a lesson, a warning about what can happen, or the dangers of domestic divisions and a political party, in this case the Republican Party, that foments those domestic divisions. So imagine if the U.S. were to have a crisis like Israel found itself in on Sunday. We have we don't have a Speaker of the House, which is, like you say, after the president and vice president, the next person in line for the presidency is the Speaker. The House is virtually paralyzed. We are under a deadline to get our government funded, and they have now admitted they're not going to make that deadline. And they're going to have a second, stopgap spending bill so that the government doesn't shut down. And if we had a terrorist attack on our country, the Speaker is also one of only 8 people that is in the briefings on all the intelligence that comes to the president. It's just unbelievable that we would do this to ourselves. But no, we have been really ever since Donald Trump came down the golden stairway at Trump Tower, that in a increasingly divided, polarized country. And so the disarray paralyzing Congress, which is headless in the House, is a real danger to us. And then you take the Senate, where hundreds of top military and diplomatic nominees are blocked, are frozen in place because one Republican senator, without opposition apparent to anyone from the rest of his Republican colleagues, is holding those nominations, including an ambassador to Israel, holding them hostage. And so I just would like to say that we should see in what has happened to Israel the danger in our own country of polarization like the Republican Party has fomented upon us.
Let me. I got a few minutes left here. Let me press you on this. So I've had a number of persons on the program, obviously, talking about this drama regarding the speakership, and we all were just sort of gobsmacked when they took Kevin McCarthy out pretty quickly. And he begged for it. He said, "You want me? Come get me." And they came and got him. You've been around long enough to remember this. It reminded me, when I saw that story, I kind of laughed. Kevin McCarthy basically said, "If you want me, come get me." It reminded me of Gary Hart. Remember that? I don't want to laugh.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to laugh. But Gary Hart was like, "Yeah, come get me if you want to get me. Come get me." And then they're
we're showing our age, Tavis.
Yeah, I know. Photographers were hanging out in trees. Remember that? They were hanging out in trees trying to get him.
Oh yeah.
So
I was here then.
Yeah, so they got Gary Hart said, "Come get me," and they got him. And Kevin McCarthy said, "Come get me," and they got Kevin McCarthy. I digress on that. But I've talked to a number of folk on the program about this, and I am, with each passing day, I start to feel. At once, I was ambivalent about this, but with each passing day, I get more and more certain about how I think I feel. And that is with regard to whether or not Democrats did the right thing by letting McCarthy hang himself. Now, there was conversation, as you know, you cover this again every day in D.C., there was conversation that Hakeem Jeffries and Democrats might cut a deal to let McCarthy stay on, and they would extract certain things from him in exchange for a few Democratic votes to let him stay there. Not because they support him, but because they don't have enough votes to put Hakeem Jeffries in as Speaker. So why not extract something from the Republicans, get what you want, give a few Democratic votes, let McCarthy stay there. Why? Because it stabilizes the House. Kevin McCarthy is not the end-all, be-all, but at least this level of instability doesn't exist at this critical moment in the world's history where we don't have a Speaker of the House, third in line to the presidency. Democrats could have staved that off. But for short-term gain, to make a political point, one could argue, they risk long-term security. So I say all that to ask whether or not, in retrospect, you think the Democrats did the right thing.
I do think they did the right thing. I think they did the only thing they really could do. But the argument you make about, Democrats should have tried to do what they could to stick with the devil they know, that is Kevin McCarthy, then get somebody perhaps worse. First of all, I reject that. I mean, I don't think it's a question of somebody else could be worse. I mean, the way that Kevin McCarthy was serving as Speaker, there was nothing in it for Democrats, and I don't think. I think Democrats were right that Kevin McCarthy had shown repeatedly, even Republicans will tell you, that you can't trust his word.
Fair enough.
So if you're going to make a deal with Kevin McCarthy, someone who walked away from the spending deal that he and President Biden cut just in May and June, and that's why we nearly had a shutdown last month. His word can't be trusted, he's not going to be able. The Republicans are not going to stand for a leader who is in cahoots with Democrats.
I'm not defending Kevin McCarthy. I'm saying that Kevin McCarthy didn't say publicly, "I'm David Duke without the baggage."
Well,
didn't say
that's
that,
true.
Jackie.
And you were right about that. Steve Scalise said that back in when he was first about to be elected to Congress. He appeared for your listeners' benefit. This story came out in 2014 that he had appeared and spoken to a white supremacist group that had been founded by David Duke. Yeah. And he claimed that he did not know its background, which just it'd be laughable if it weren't so serious.
What's your?
I will say this: he's done. I mean, that's what you've got in the Republican Party now, and at least I can say he's not done anything so overt. Yeah. He's been careful not to, keep the racism inside, I guess.
No, and Jim Jordan's even scarier for me, policy-wise. He's an ideologue. He's even scarier than Kevin McCarthy. So to your point about sticking with the devil I'm just going to go on record and say I hope Democrats don't regret not sticking with the devil that they knew, because Scalise and Jordan, this ain't child's play, number one. And number two, if this instability remains, again, will they look in the rearview mirror and think they did the wrong thing because of all the instability in the House? I'll leave it there for now. Jackie Combs, I thank you as always. Do it again somewhere down the road. Have a great rest of the day.
You too, Travis. I look forward to being with you.
Thanks, Jackie. Take care, my friend. When we come forward, you'll want to hear this conversation. She's the author of a book called Justice for Some: Law and the Question of Palestine. Our next guest, you don't want to miss. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Interrogating and unpacking. That's what we do around here. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. BenefitsCheckup.org.
My daughter was diagnosed with a rare malignant rhabdoid tumor on the spine. They sent her straight to St. Jude. My hope was gone. But when you get there, everyone's like, hey, we're not going to give up. And when you see other people not giving up on your child, that makes all the difference in the world. When I found out I didn't have to pay, I was just grateful. They saved my baby's life.
Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
It's a Wednesday, October 11th. I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. House Republicans will hold a closed-door vote on a new speaker today. It comes after Majority Leader Steve Scalise of Louisiana and Chairman of the House Judiciary Committee Jim Jordan of Ohio auditioned for the job Tuesday. Afterward, a number of lawmakers said they're not sure either Scalise or Jordan can come up with the 217 votes needed to be elected Speaker. In Baltimore, Maryland, new federal funding will enable Morgan State University to lead a network of historically black colleges and universities in the study of maternal health. The goal is to reduce the risk of black women from dying from pregnancy-related complications at a rate 3 times that of white women. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Make your next lunch a lunch combo from Buffalo Wild Wings. Choose from wings, street tacos, and more. Head to Buffalo Wild Wings or order online at buffalowildwings.com at participating locations for a limited time, Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Price and participation vary by location. Taxes extra. See menu for details.
Hi, I'm Kyle at Blindster.com. Shopping for new blinds? At Blindster, we offer over 50 different blinds, shades, and shutters at low prices, custom made for your windows, and shipping is free. Shop at home and order 10 free samples of any product before you buy. Blindster.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Lance Lynn will be the Dodgers starting pitcher tonight in Game 3 against the Arizona Diamondbacks in Phoenix. The Dodgers facing a must-win situation are putting their trust in a guy who gave up 44 homers in the regular season, the most in the major leagues. It is very important for Lynn to get off to a good start. The Diamondbacks have scored a combined 9 runs in the first inning in Games 1 and 2. Chargers running back Austin Eckler said he will play in Monday night's game against Dallas at SoFi. Eckler has been out since Week 1 with a high ankle sprain. The Chargers are averaging only 2.7 yards per carry in Eckler's absence. The Clippers beat Utah by 5 in a preseason game last night in Seattle. Kawhi Leonard played 20 minutes. He led the Clippers with 16 points. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
A sense of peace, a place to kick back and put down roots, a lasting legacy. However you define home, at City National, we're committed to helping you get there with our City National Ladder Up Home Loan Program. Find the full benefits at cnb.com/ladderuphome. City National Bank, here for our clients and communities. Ladder Up program is available only in select areas. Terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. City National Bank is an equal housing lender. Member FDIC. NMLS ID 536994.
For all of us, this generation and the next, there is simply no place in our lives for litter. And yet, it's everywhere we look. And unfortunately, it does belong to all of us. So, let's come together and create a litter-free, clean California, once and for all. Remember to properly dispose of your trash and recycling. Secure truckloads with tarps to keep debris from flying out. Clean out your car when you're at a gas station. Take pride in your community by organizing a cleanup event. Or join a cleanup event near you. Zero litter is the goal. Join us at cleanca.com. That's cleanca.com. Let's do it together. Brought to you by Caltrans. cleanca.com.
The Green Foundation, key health influencer, empowering our Black communities through action. The Green Foundation advocates for affordable health care, accessibility, and knows the importance of culturally relatable health care. Regardless of income, we believe it is a right for optimum health. The Green Foundation has been at the forefront for 25 years, dedicated solely to promoting prevention through early detection, annual screenings, and nutrition. We know you because we are you. Our hand-holding approach supports you and your family to receive your right to be treated fairly and receiving quality healthcare services. We want you and your family to know COVID-19 was devastating to our families and to our wallet. We can build back better by understanding prevention, wearing your mask, washing your hands, social distancing, and understanding the impact of long COVID. Get the care you deserve. Take advantage of your privileges. Contact us, info@thegreenfoundation.net. info@thegreenfoundation.net.
Made fresh daily in Leimert Park, Los Angeles, California. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
We continue our conversation now. We thank Jackie Combs for coming on to talk about the Israel-Palestine situation and this drama with regard to electing a new Speaker of the House. Again, I repeat, I hope Democrats don't regret not sticking with the devil that they know. More about that in the days ahead. We continue now, though, talking about Israel and Palestine, more expressly Israel and Hamas. The destruction continues. Hundreds of people, thousands, in fact, now on both sides. As I said earlier, are killed, injured, missing, abducted. Noura Erakat is a Rutgers professor, a Palestinian human rights attorney, and the author of Justice for Some, Law and the Question of Palestine. She joins us now to offer her insights and perspective on the unfolding events in the region. In case you did not hear this, in case you just tuned in, certainly Noura did not hear it, at least on this program. I'm sure she heard it yesterday. But just a small slice of what President Biden had to say yesterday, and we'll jump into our conversation with Professor Erakat. Play the clip, Miles.
The bloody hands of the terrorist organization Hamas, a group whose stated purpose for being is to kill Jews. This was an act of sheer evil. More than 1,000 civilians slaughtered, not just killed, slaughtered in Israel. Among them, at least 14 American citizens killed. Parents butchered using their bodies to try to protect their children. Stomach-turning reports of babies being killed. Entire families slain. Young people massacred while attending a musical festival to celebrate peace. Women raped, assaulted, paraded as trophies. Families hid their fear for hours and hours, desperately trying to keep their children quiet to avoid drawing attention. And thousands of wounded, alive but carrying with them the bullet holes and the shrapnel wounds and the memory of what they endured. You all know these traumas never go away. There's still so many families desperately waiting to hear the fate of their loved ones, not knowing if they're alive or dead or hostages. Infants in their mother's arms, grandparents in wheelchairs, Holocaust survivors abducted and held hostage. Hostages whom Hamas has now threatened to execute in violation of every code of human morality. This is terrorism. But sadly, for the Jewish people, it's not new. This attack has brought to the surface painful memories and the scars left by a millennia of anti-Semitism and genocide of the Jewish people. So in this moment, we must be crystal clear. We stand with Israel. We stand with Israel.
Professor Erakat, as I mentioned, you are a Palestinian human rights attorney. When you heard the president's remarks yesterday, you processed them how?
I have to tell you, I have not heard such a horrible press briefing from a Democratic president in an amazingly long time. The fact that the U.S. actually provides Israel as its primary supporter and benefactor with unequivocal military, financial, and diplomatic support, the fact that it has issued 43 vetoes in the Security Council to protect Israel against any kind of accountability, that it has appended any kind of international resolution to this conflict, the fact that it knows that Israel is an apartheid regime, as declared by a consensus of international and Israeli human rights organizations in 2020, and then to come out now and to erase that entire context and to transform in a very perverse, warmongering, dangerous way that this is a bloodlust terrorist attack against Jewish people is making our world so dangerous. The U.S. has been part of the problem that sustained the condition of Palestinian subjugation. And now what we're seeing is a ratcheting up. Instead of the president saying we take responsibility for a failure to resolve this conflict, for emboldening an apartheid regime to harm Palestinians day in and day out in an untenable situation, we heard the president say, let us kill more Palestinians, let us dehumanize them. And also, there are so many racist tropes that you heard that play on American, already racialized conceptions of Muslims. Since 9/11 especially, we have racialized Muslims as dangerous, warmongers, fanatic, not having a politics. And you heard all those tropes by this president. And we are being deliberately, I want to share this with your listeners so that they're aware, we are being deliberately desensitized to the mass killing of Palestinians. They have been killed for now 75 years, occupation for 56 years, siege for 16 years. Only in the past few days, the Israeli army placed a tightened siege around the Gaza Strip, which is 365 square kilometers, prevented a humanitarian corridor for civilians to exit, bombed the Rafah crossing that borders Egypt, and has pummeled the Gaza Strip with carpet bombing. They've even attacked UN schools that have been providing shelter to 187,000 Palestinians who have nowhere to escape to. And because of the rhetoric of this president, who should be, as the American leader in the world, where he should be helping us land to get to a place where we are not seeing more death. Instead, we hear an American president support the only nuclear power in the Middle East to kill Palestinians in vengeful killings without regard to the atrocities that we're bearing witness to.
As you noted, I did not interrupt, as is my custom. I don't believe in talking over people. I wanted you to get your baseline points out, and you did. Let me now start to interrogate that with a couple of questions. Let me start with this. If you accept that there is a distinction, as the president made yesterday in his remarks, if you accept, Professor Erakat, that there's a distinction between Hamas and the Palestinian people, does any of what you just said justify what Hamas did the other day?
Well, let me be clear. The distinction that I make between civilians and any governing authority is the distinction that I would make on legal, moral, religious grounds. Mm-hmm. Under no circumstances do we target civilians because of their elected leadership. Israel elected a far-right fascist government. Nobody justified the targeting of Israeli civilians. The U.S. Bush administration literally waged war against Iraq based on the false notion of weapons of mass destruction, decimating the country. We have never once, nobody has ever said, go ahead, Americans are legitimate targets. So my distinction here between Hamas as a governing party and the Palestinian civilians is in lockstep with that principle that we do not believe in collective punishment of any people. That said, Hamas is the governing authority of Palestinians. They were elected in 2006 and immediately punished by a debilitating siege by Israel and then later the international community. That's the siege I'm describing, one that kept Palestinians trapped. 2.2 million Palestinians have been trapped in the Gaza Strip. They cannot access chemotherapy without a military permit. They cannot have access to water, to clean water. Right now, because Israel has limited electricity to the Gaza Strip, 1/4 of all disease in Gaza is a result of a lack of access to hygienic water. They cannot travel freely. They cannot move and have been subject to systematic warfare now 4 times since 2018. And when Palestinians marched, Tavis, when they marched and they are peacefully in 2018, the largest civil rights protest or human rights, agitation and nonviolent means, they were shot. 40,000 of them were marching against the militarized Gaza perimeter. They were shot down like birds by Israeli snipers.
I hear your point loud and clear, and I don't mean to cut you off. I just got to do this right quick, and we'll continue when we come forward. My role here is to make sure that this audience hears both sides, and there are two sides here. And because of the U.S.'s cozy relationship with Israel, which I understand, and this audience understands that anybody stuck on stupid, we have a cozy relationship with Israel. We often don't hear the other side, and so I wanted to make sure that this audience, of course, today hears the other side. You'll continue hearing the other side when we come forward with Professor Noura Erakat of Rutgers University on Tavis Smiley.
For all the freedom-loving folk, this is Tavis Smiley.
I feel like freedom. What is dedication?
My biggest fear in the middle of my addiction was that my kids wouldn't have a father. And I started thinking, you know what? This isn't my story. I definitely had to become a better man to be a better father. It's important to me that my kids are empowered and truly believe that if they can think it, they can do it.
That's dedication. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Joey from Vermont, a farmer trying to get through the winter. Adriana from South Carolina, a single mother living paycheck to paycheck. Liam from Ohio, an injured father struggling to provide for his family. Hi, I'm Shanola Hampton, and I support the Feeding America network of food banks because they help provide over 6 billion meals to people in need each year. Learn more at feedingamerica.org.
Oh, this cold.
Honey?
Honey?
Honey, you need DayQuil Severe Honey.
DayQuil Severe Honey gives you powerful cold and flu symptom relief with a honeylicious taste, because life doesn't stop for a cold.
Okay, I'm ready to go.
Now I'm getting a cold.
Honey.
Try DayQuil Severe Honey for powerful cold and flu relief. DayQuil Severe with honey flavor. The daytime coughing, aching, stuffy head, fever, honeylicious, power through your day medicine. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Do you struggle with occasional nerve aches in your hands or feet? Try Nervive Nerve Relief from the world's #1 nerve care company. Nervive tablets contain alpha-lipoic acid to relieve nerve aches, weakness, and discomfort, plus B-complex vitamins to support healthy nerve function as you age. Live life with less nerve discomfort with Nervive Nerve Relief. Learn more at nervivehealth.com. And try Nervive Pain Relieving Cream to block nerve pain signals at the source. Use as directed.
At Susan G. Komen, we believe that ending breast cancer needs all of us working together. Because if you've just been diagnosed and don't know where to turn, we've got you. If you can't afford the treatment you need, we've got you. And if you are driven to honor the loved one you've just lost, we have a place for you here. Because of you, we're supporting those who need help today while tirelessly searching for tomorrow's cures. Visit Komen.org and be a part of our Susan G. Komen community today.
Hey, son. How are you feeling?
I'm fine, Pops.
What's on your mind?
I can't explain it. Navigating without a compass, eyes waiting, started to wonder. Metamorphosis, the loss of who you thought you was.
When your kid can't find the language, help them find the lyrics. Listen to the Sound It Out album and get tips and tools to start a conversation at sounditouttogether.org. Brought to you by Ad Council and Pivotal Ventures.
Let's get back to more of this rich dialogue with Tavis Smiley.
I once asked Rush Limbaugh many years ago, I asked Rush, why don't you ever have persons on to debate with you? Why don't you ever let the other side get heard on your program? And Rush looked at me and said, Tavis, I am equal time. I've never forgotten that. I am equal time. And so I raise that because we oftentimes in this country don't give equal time to the other side of the argument. And so I'm delighted to have Professor Noura Erakat from Rutgers to offer another perspective on this. Let me just ask you, though, watching my time here, so now I can't let you filibuster now. I got to ask a few questions and move a little more swiftly here, Professor. But let me ask you whether or not we're in the wrong frame. And by we, I mean you in this instance, respectfully. Is the frame either or both and? Here's what I mean by that. Can you not condemn what Hamas did the other day and make the powerful points you've just made at the same time? Can't you do both?
You didn't ask me to do that, and I really wonder why it is that we're looking for these politics of condemnation. When I say that I want all of us to live, I'm looking for a durable solution. Mm-hmm. When I am protesting against warmongering, I am looking for all of us to survive together.
Yes.
When I say dismantle Israeli apartheid, I believe that will lead to a future where all of us can live together. Because in this situation, in this region, There is no military solution to the Palestinian struggle for freedom. We are either all going to die together in mutual destruction, or we're all going to live together in some sort of cooperation. And I have only advocated in all of my work as a human rights attorney and as a scholar for the latter.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask at this point how the world should read that the U.S., to your point, continues unabated in its full support of Israel. And not ever giving any consideration to the other side. How should the world read that at this point in this crisis?
Well, we should read it as any historic, colonial, and racist situation, right? Even you saying, you're telling your listeners, I have to give the other side, you're explaining, inviting me onto the program. And it's precisely because as Palestinians, we always get spoken about, we always get spoken for, but we rarely get to speak for ourselves. The fact that right now on every mainstream channel, we are seeing reels and reels of Israeli families suffering from what's happening to them. Imagine what Americans might have believed today if they had seen the suffering of Palestinians, if they saw Palestinian mothers grieving their children, if they saw us be humans, just like everybody else who are struggling for freedom, instead of being referred to as human animals and being desensitized to absolute carnage and catastrophe. I think what we get trained to do, what racism trains us to do, certainly against Palestinians, but certainly against Black communities, against indigenous communities, as we've seen Asian communities, it trains us to expect these communities to die and to become desensitized to their oppression. And so my struggle for Palestinian freedom is actually a broader struggle against racism, full stop. And that's why I've been engaged in a number of transnational solidarity movements, including Black Palestinian Solidarity, which is robust and so inspiring.
We'll take a full stop right now and continue when we come forward. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
From Leimert Park with love, this is Tavis Smiley.
What's up, party people? It's your favorite MC's favorite rapper, MC Light here. And we're celebrating 50 years of hip-hop, authentically powered by Cadillac. And we're going to take it way back to where it started. It was only fitting that hip-hop began with teenagers at a back-to-school jam in the rec room of a South Bronx apartment complex by an 18-year-old brother. By the way, I'm also sure he had a Cadillac parked outside. He noticed the energy on the dance floor when he switched between two turntables, extending the beats, repeating the breaks, and never losing the rhythms. And that was the birth of hip-hop. And from that moment, it took off.
For more on how Cadillac is celebrating hip-hop's 50th, visit Cadillac.com/audacity.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 joins you in standing for voting rights. When We All Vote is a leading national nonpartisan initiative on a mission to change the culture around voting and to increase participation in each and every election by helping to close the race and age gap. Created by Michelle Obama, When We All Vote brings together individuals, institutions, brands, and organizations to register new voters across the country and advance civic education for the entire family and voters of every age to build an informed and engaged electorate for today and generations to come. When We All Vote empowers their supporters and volunteers to take action through voting, advocating for their rights, and holding their elected officials accountable. Please visit whenweallvote.org to stand up for your rights, voting rights. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
JP Morgan Chase is building on the investments in California and around the country to help close the racial wealth gap and build a more equitable future. As part of JP Morgan Chase commitment, they are taking action to help improve financial wealth and access to banking in the Black community, helping more people open low-cost checking and savings accounts. Hosting community seminars with supporting Black-led institutions by building awareness about financial investments, hiring community managers, and opening community center branches like Crenshaw, Inglewood, in downtown LA. Visit today, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity. Again, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity. Get the tools to help reach your financial goals. Visit today, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity. Again, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity.
Sounds different. Huh. This is Tavis Smiley.
Professor Erakat, Bibi Netanyahu has made it clear, and these are my words framing what he's already said. At this point, they intend to crush Hamas. When this thing is all said and done, they made it clear that they want to be certain that Hamas has no capability whatsoever to do this ever again. They are intending to crush Hamas. And to that, you say what?
I want to ask the audience just to exercise some scrutiny. Hamas is a political party, which means that there are Palestinian members of that political party all over Palestine and all over the world. To the extent that they want to crush the military capacity of Hamas, there are 15,000 fighters in a population of 2.2 million Palestinians who have nowhere to go. So again, this national security rhetoric should be scrutinized. When they say that, there is no particular target. They are about to engage in indiscriminate carpet bombing of the besieged Gaza Strip and 2.2 million Palestinians stuck there. Hamas is the governing party. That means all government buildings in the Gaza Strip, hospitals, schools, and otherwise are Hamas targets. Where are the Palestinians going to go? Since Hamas became a party in 1987, it didn't exist until 20 years after military occupation and 39 years after Israel's establishment. Israel has tried to militarily decimate Hamas. It has failed because it represents a current in Palestinian political thought that uses religion and politics in order to agitate for their freedom. The only solution here is a political solution, and one that aims to establish a permanent peace that features the end of occupation, the lifting of the siege, and a dismantlement of an apartheid system.
Let me ask you two questions in the 2 minutes I have left. Number one, who are the right persons to do that? I've said on this program repeatedly over years, I've said this, Bibi is the wrong person. Netanyahu, as far as I'm concerned, is the wrong person at that table, and at times we've had the wrong person, I think, persons on the other side of the table. So who are the right persons to make that happen?
Honestly, Tavis, the U.S. is not is part of the problem, and so they need to get out of the way. They have fomented this situation. And it's not just Bibi Netanyahu. There hasn't been an Israeli leader who's even recognized the Palestinian state except for one, Ehud Barak, and he actually increased colonial settlements by 100%. As for the other side, the Palestinian side, no matter what leadership we have produced, Israel has said that they have no partner for peace. And so I ask your audience to scrutinize that rhetorical talking point. For Mahmoud Abbas, who's the current leader, since Arafat died, has done everything that Israel wanted, including policing Palestinians. And we have not gained an inch of freedom in the West Bank either.
Here's my exit question with 45 seconds to go. I'll give you the last word, of course. When you see a moment like this and the world is lining up, countries all over the globe lining up behind Israel, that makes you feel how?
Devastated. I am so disappointed in this humanitarian catastrophe and our failure to this point and our failure moving forward. And I want to tell your listeners that we have a role to play as American taxpayers. We fund these atrocities. We are the source of the solution. We should not allow our tax dollars to be used in this way.
Her name is Noura Erakat. She's a professor at Rutgers University. She is a Palestinian human rights attorney, a brilliant spokesperson, as you can tell, and the author of a book called Justice for Some, Law and the Question of Palestine. Professor Erakat, an honor to have you on this program. Thank you for your time. I deeply appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
Good to have you on. Hour 2 of Tavis Smiley, when we come forward.
KBLA 1580.